bios, I'm going to get people to introduce themselves. So I'm going to go right down the line here. If you can all just take a very brief moment to explain who you are and what your organization does. John.
Super. So I'm John Finn. I'm the Executive Director with the School Lunch Association. The School Lunch Association is perhaps the longest running charitable school food program in the country. Founded in 1989, so we're in the year 35. Currently we operate in 42 different school locations, primarily through the Metro and Northeastern Avalon, with a couple of schools in the Central region as well. As a social enterprise, we offer a pay what you can model in the sense that all the funds we receive, revenue from the sale of food, goes back into our operations. We currently have, I think, just shy of 90 employees spread across 42 different locations. And I'm very pleased to have the two folks who run the show. I'm going to point them out right here. Angie and Maurice are the two operations managers. I call them my colleagues. I don't refer to myself as their boss, but they basically run 42 franchises, essentially, is the way we look at it in terms of the school food program. So that's a little bit about me, and hats off to my staff and my colleagues that are here. And yeah, it's my good friend, Celina.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Celina. I'm the Executive Director of Kids Eat Smart Foundation, Newfoundland and Labrador, and part of the incredible team. And again, my team are here this morning, some of the people on the ground, and part of our foundation, Jennifer, Lisa, and Natasha and Evelyn. So just to share a little bit with you about Kids Eat Smart, we are in 100% of all the schools in Newfoundland and Labrador. We are 100% volunteer run. It is a universal program, and what that means is that every child and youth who comes to school has access to food at no cost to the child and their family. We are very proud of that, and we've been doing this as well for over 31 years. We're known to the colleagues, I guess, some of my colleagues across the country, we're known as the darlings of the country. We are the only province that has a program like ours, so it's something for all of us here today to be very proud of. And as we move through today, we're here to share all of the wonderful successes and challenges that we've had, and very privileged to be part of this panel, and thank you for inviting us.
Thanks,
Turn it over to Matthew.
All right, hello everyone. I'm Matthew Carlson. I'm Sales and Marketing with School Milk Foundation of Newfoundland and Labrador. So we are the organization that put all those little small milk cartons in the schools. So you'll see those, they're 250 milliliters, the most common size. So it's a subsidized program. So those are 60 cents each as a selling price, and sometimes they're given out through various programs and for events, etc. So we partner with the two dairies here in the province. So both Central Dairies and Scottsburg are actually producing our little cartons, and depending on the schools, it will go from one or the other. So that's what we do. We're a small team. There's 3 of us. so we're obviously much smaller scale. We partner with organizations such as Kids Eat Smart and School Lunch and Sport NL and so on. Our school sports to get those milk in as widespread as we can, or in pretty well all the schools as well. So that's what we do.
Hello, my name is Gary Gosse, owner-operator of Harbour Catering. I'm also a chef by trade. Going back as far as 2005, from beginning and seeing a real need for food, quality food service in the greater CBN area, which encompasses all Burlington to Dildo to Bay Roberts, and highlighting and focusing on a positive nutritional approach in schools. We have partnered with many different organizations throughout the years, Little Green Thumbs, local farmers, and small operations alike, to achieve the positive outlook on nutrition in schools. We have committed to the schools. We feed offer services to 5,500 kids daily in 12 schools in our area. Our operation employs over 44 people in our area, and we work together with local partnerships for one common goal. I just want to welcome everybody here, and it's great to see everybody here. I've had many conversations with a lot of people throughout the years of the importance of school nutrition, dietary in schools. Melissa Caravan, we go back a long ways. I just want to say it's really, really, really awesome to see all these people in one room with sharing the same common goal, which is, of course, a universal lunch program throughout the provinces of Newfoundland and Labrador. For those of you who come from a ways, that are your first time here, We have a lot to offer. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of knowledge on this table, on this panel. For those of you that have come back from away again, welcome. We look forward to working with you, and I hope that we share some common themes throughout this today and networking as much as possible to see to it that we're successful in the upcoming approach for 2024-2025. Thank you.
Hi, good morning everyone. My name is Shaun. I'm with Chartwells, which is a division of Compass Group Canada. And I wanted just to thank the committee and everybody who was involved in organizing this event. And I think it's just super exciting to have all of you in the room and all of us together brainstorming, collaborating, and talking about this really important initiative that we're super excited to be a part of. So thank you for allowing us to be part of it. As part of Chartwells, we currently operate in 40 plus locations right across the province as a contracted food service provider. So we've been in the province for over 30 years, and we're just super excited about all the work that we have done in the past and the future and what this food program will bring. So we're just excited to be here and be part of the team and collaborating with all of you to bring something really great to the students of the province.
Thanks so much, all of you. I think that's a really good starting point for this conversation, and I'm going to go right to the first question. We'll go down the line again to start this one. So for all of you, you're all organizations who are in schools every day doing your thing. What is one key message you would like to send to policymakers about school? I'll start with John, since you're right there.
Okay. That's an excellent question, and again, welcome to the folks from away as well. If you're not from town, if you're from away, we say if you're here in Newfoundland, you're from town, you're not from town. So from folks out of town, welcome, and then if you come from away, welcome further. Yeah, this is it's like very historic. Thanks to Food First for putting this together. As Gary alluded to, we're trying to put a lot of folks with the same common goal in the same room to figure out something that's extremely complex. School food is extremely complex. With respect to policymakers and decisions, they have a very tough task in front of them, and I'll just be blunt and say it. I mean, you look at governments, whether it's provincial or national, trying to provide funding to either charities or subsidies to private operations, and to me, that's going to be the biggest challenge from a policy piece, is what type of incentives do they provide in that mixed market, we'll say, whether it's a for-profit or a charitable program or a volunteer-run program. Those are the tough conversations that I think are going to occur. My understanding is that the federal government will be meeting with various jurisdictions across the country over the summer to sign agreements with provinces. And so whatever province signs on first, what does that look like? And what does the next province do to follow? To me, that's kind of like where some of the biggest challenges from the policy piece is. But from the other policy piece, and it was alluded to this morning in the presentation from Josh and Ashley, was around time when we eat, right? And so the challenges we have in Newfoundland are no different. And a lot of people say, well, we have rural, we have these big spread out areas. It's no different in rural Saskatchewan. It's no different in rural Manitoba. And from the folks from away, Debbie and Carolyn from the coalition, they can speak to that. And they've heard from all over the country. So the challenges are actually the same. And the challenges in that policy piece is going to be, like for us, if we're busing children, some schools will have to the children will have to get on an hour early to bus to school, so that the length of the school day can only be so long. But to me, the big piece is the time to eat. It's the amount of time that children have to eat. And it's so overlooked when you try to have, here with the largest school in which we operate has 700 children in Mount Pearl from K to 3. And in the wintertime, you want to feed 350 of them in 25 minutes, and then they got to run to their locker, put on their snow boots, put on their snow hats, and go outside and play, right? And while they're trying to eat, they're not even eating. They're talking to their friends, and they're laughing, and they're carrying on, right? These are children, right? And then you're trying to do this in such a quick time frame. So I don't know how you extend the school day. I don't profess to have any answer to that, but there needs to be some consideration given around the length of time children get to eat, because the amount of people it takes to serve this amount of children becomes an extreme challenge. Providing food in schools is not entirely a financially feasible business model when it comes down to populations of said schools and the amount of people you need to pull it off. For example, yesterday we took a delegation of folks to St. Teresa's in the center city, where 2 individuals, school lunch staff, prepared 330 meals. So 2 individuals went in at 8 in the morning, prepared 330 meals, and they had 3 children help them serve, because otherwise we need a small army of people to serve that many kids in that amount of time. So it's a timing piece, which comes down to policy around the school day and what that looks like for the Department of Education, and then it comes down to the funding piece and what are the nuances of that. But to me, those are the 2 biggest things around policy that I think are extremely important.
Thanks, John. Celina, how about you? One sort of key policy message.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you just touched on something as well, John. It's about the school time, the academic time, and the time that children get to eat. We see that every day with our breakfast clubs. And as we share, I think, when I think about the policy making, from us as a team at Kids Eat Smart Foundation and being part of our biggest success, what we do and being in 100% of our schools is the key words are probably communication and collaboration. Because I think that when you're working with all of the people who are doing what we do in school food, you're going to get a lot of those best practices. And I think knowing what we're doing here already in Newfoundland and Labrador, we're very unique. And I think as a policymaker, I think we have to think about, what works here, what works for Newfoundland and Labrador. And we all know about rural Newfoundland and Labrador. There are going to be some big challenges. But again, we've been in rural Newfoundland, we've been in Labrador, but I think again, bringing the right people around the table with that communication and collaboration, I think that's where it starts, like the food first recommendations that you're working on. But I think for us, that's probably what we would share to as a team.
Thanks, Celina. Matthew, how about you? What would you want to say to policymakers to kick this up?
Yeah, so I'll start sort of broad, obviously, that doing something like this is really important, and hitting on something that's going to work is really important for getting out those quality lunches to the children. This is helps their academics, it helps their physical health, long-term development, etc. So it's something that's good for the community. So it's got to be done in such a way that it works. So I would stress that like a one-size-fits-all is not going to do it. There's such a sort of a varied system of getting food out to the schools. With all these players here, we work with various players to get milk as part of it. So we see that on a smaller scale, because obviously this is going to be, we're talking one thing we're doing, right? So one ingredient, so to speak. So it's the same every day. I would certainly hope the lunches are going to be different every day, or at least different some days from others. So there's a lot of things that are working. We've got, of course, the private companies as well that are out there doing good work as well. So something has to be done to sort of avail what's already there and find a way to work with that. I think in PEI they have something that there's like a nonprofit that works with the for-profit companies. So perhaps something like that.
Thanks, Matthew. Down to Gary. One thing we want policymakers to
What have I got?
I'll give you 2 minutes, Gary, because I know I can give you 45.
Just briefly, I want to allude to a couple of quick things. The panel that's in front of us, you're not going to find, in my personal opinion, no better opportunity to brainstorm and come up with a solution that should ensure the success of the nutritional benefits of the Universal Food Program. Through the years, and I'm going back, I know it's only early, in 2005, recognizing that hunger in schools is real. The biggest thing that I want to say to policymakers is understanding the demographics of the province as a whole, Newfoundland, Labrador. And I know, John, you alluded to Manitoba and Saskatchewan, places like that, but Newfoundland is in a very different environment with culture, and what brings about how we make things work. We're good at making things work. That's one thing about Newfoundlanders that I find, and I feel that we can be the trendsetters across the country for operating a universal food program. Most people wouldn't consider having private, companies like myself, Chartwells, and anybody else like the mom and pop shops across the island, but they have added value and considerably added tremendous value to the food service programs. Without, companies like ours, throughout the years, a lot of schools would have basically done without, what I would like to say to policymakers, want to know is take the opportunity that we have with everybody here to finally come up with a plan that is years and years in the making. Again, I keep going back to Melissa. We've had many conversations through the years, Melissa, and to me, this is gratitude at its finest to finally be at this point where we all recognize, again, the same thing. Now we need to make a roadmap to get there. What's the roadmap going to look like? What's the process? Is it 2 years? Is it 5 years? Is it 6? Are we going to be greedy and saying we'd like to see it in 1 or 2 years? I think that's a really big appetite right out the gate. When I say that, it's okay to say that included into the places like Gander, Corner Brook, Grand Falls, Wabush. But the communities that are not big like that, this is where the struggles are going to be. This is where we really need to set our ideas in motion, how we can encompass all of those schools and make sure that we incorporate everybody. That's what I'd like for you to say. I'd like for you to listen to everybody here. I think I'm just really happy to be here with this group. It's the biggest moment to me in the province of school food, and I've considerably not tooted our horn as a company, but have been a big player in our area, from local farms to food, so we have a lot to offer. So thank you.
Thanks, Gary. And Shaun, over to you. What would you want to bring to policymakers here?
And one of the challenges of going last on this is that you sort of echo what your predecessors have said, but I would, the first comment is really in relation to what everybody has said, and it's about the collaboration piece. And for us specifically, we, as part of a large organization, we have resources behind the organization that policymakers can tap into. And so really it is a matter of just asking questions and having us at the table and being part of forums like this so that we can tap into those resources and share experiences and get to solutions quickly and easily. So that would be the first piece. The second piece that I would add is, as a company, we can do, as a contracted services company, we can do just about anything that needs to be done. But everything comes at a cost. And it's having discussions about what's the most impactful process or initiative in terms of what we want to do, and talking about how we can achieve that objective at the most reasonable price, given that it is a subsidized program. And so as one very small example, we as a contracted provider could deliver products to every single classroom right across the province, but that comes at a cost. So is there a different way to do that to achieve the same objective where we're delivering product to a classroom in a different way that doesn't require our labor? Or that's just one example, but just having those dialogues and conversations to see how we can do it most effectively.
Thanks, Shaun. And in the interest of equity, I'm not going to leave you at the end of the line every time. So maybe we'll go back the other way. So we have a couple more for Gary. First. You're first. You also might not want to be first, but I'm not no press about that. I do want to, I think we've started to tease this out, but I'd like to ask, what are some of the pitfalls you think you'll be trying to avoid in your work as this expansion moves forward? What's going to be what's going to be the hard side?
I think for us it would be the logistics around getting to some of the more remote locations and the challenges that are associated with that, and just understanding that landscape a little bit better and being able to provide for those locations the same way we would provide to somebody here in the metro area.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a theme that's going to float. Gary, how about you? What are the pitfalls you can see coming as this expands and grows and becomes a universal program?
Too big of an appetite for, there's basically three things we talked about in the pre-summit yesterday, especially. We talked about food literacy, which is a huge, huge piece. We talked about not-for-profit and profit. So 3 different scenarios that we all want to incorporate into one. But I think the blended model that we come up with as a provincial provider, and I'm going to say provincial provider, whether it's Chartwells or school lunch, or it could be the breakfast program, or so on and so forth. I just want to say that the biggest thing is not trying to incorporate too many things to overcomplicate things. The food literacy piece is a big part of it, but that could come that could come in different ways, different avenues. We spoke about it yesterday, hopefully we'll get a chance to go back to that after, because I think there's a big piece on that to elaborate on. And that includes things like, bringing in local farmers, bringing in the farm to table, farm to cafeteria aspects, all those things which we have highlighted. But I really feel that in order to encompass the whole grand scheme of getting Northern Labrador right down to Port Bass to, Fogo, is basically keeping it simple with a blended model. The blended model is going to be very important in how we get to. Again, it's the roadmap. If we can all find a blended model, and everybody agrees on a blended model, that would be a success. If everybody doesn't agree to the blended model, if everybody's not on board with the blended model, including provincial government, people, key stakeholders, charitable fundraising organizations, schools, it won't work. That's my big thought of that.
Thanks, Gary. Yeah, I think that is something that's also floating to say, when is the perfect game to be good in some of these conversations? Because there's a lot of work to do pretty fast. Matthew, how about you? What do you see as some of the pitfalls coming our way?
Yeah, well, some of it would just be, just being ready for the growth that could potentially come from this, and just, having, whether it's the food, the milk, whatever the case that's needed for these lunches, just ensuring that those sort of supply lines, the logistics, it's really tough to get product to some of these rural areas that, we run into with milk. Of course, that's refrigerated product, and, it's just a challenge sometimes getting things delivered with the geography, et cetera. So, and that's not even getting into, of course, there's parts of Labrador that are sort of fly in, fly out, et cetera. So it's a challenge in planning for that, making sure that things are ready, and that, those sort of logistical challenges are all taken into consideration. I think would be the main thing I would highlight.
Thanks, Matthew. Celina, how about you? What's keeping you up at night thinking about all this?
Well, we talked about the pitfalls of expanding the program, and of course, we've been around for 31 years, and now we're in 100% of all the schools in Newfoundland and Labrador. So I think from our team, we'd probably say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So I think if there is a plan to roll out the provincial, lunch program, it has to be clear information, because if not, there's going to be a lot of confusion and there's going to be a lot of misunderstanding. And we're seeing that right now. Our Kids Eat Smart clubs were known as the breakfast clubs, but we're getting calls now almost every day, every other day, saying, can we roll the lunch program to the breakfast club? Can we just have people make lunch? Because there's money from the federal government, there's money from the provincial government. So we're hearing that. So I think that, again, as a team, when we decide to expand the program, whether it's moving from 3, 4, 5 day a week breakfast, I will share with you, 243 Kids Eat Smart clubs are serving 5 day a week breakfast. And we've grown that in the last 7 years. But we made that plan, decided, what was the capital we needed, what were the resources, working with the people, the teachers, the principals, the partners, government, and to figure out a great way to roll it out so that there wasn't misunderstanding, this confusion. People know who we are, they know what we do, they know the impact. And again, to one of the other points, there are lots of practices across the country, but let's look at what's happening now in Newfoundland and Labrador and build on that.
Excellent. And Shaun, how about you? What are you worried about?
Absolutely nothing. There's no challenges whatsoever. It's a very simple thing. Just feed the kids. So the number one thing I think, and my staff will likely concur, recruitment and retention of staff. Okay, so for us as a charity, we employ, like I said, I think we're just south of 90 people right now. And making sure folks are paid a living wage and have proper benefits. Recruitment and retention of staff. So the way I always try to give the scenario, if you're a principal in a school, and I know they have a new system now, I'm not sure it's like a phone system, but if a teacher calls in sick, they got to find a substitute teacher. They got to, because the kids are there waiting to be taught. When a kitchen staff member calls in sick, we're in the same boat. We already have plans of kids depending on their lunch. So finding and scrambling every morning, and we've made some great efficiencies with respect to that, but having call-in relief staff, I've gone so far as to approach Academy Canada from their culinary program, the College North Atlantic, their post-secondary culinary program, to say, hey, do you guys have any graduates? Every time I'm in a restaurant, I'll say to somebody, hey, do you enjoy cooking? And so we have folks who literally work for us, they'll work in the restaurants downtown in the evening, but they'll work for us in the daytime. And then on the flip side of things, we have folks who are Red Seal chefs who probably spend 10 to 15 years in industry, but the chefs who work in these restaurants, they work every evening, every Friday, every Saturday, every Easter, every Christmas. But when you come work for a school, guess what? Easter's off, Christmas is off, summer's off, you're working 8 to 5, you still get to drop off the kids, pick them up. So there's benefits there. But the recruitment and retention of staff and how they are compensated is going to be a huge challenge, and particularly when you get to more remote areas, because you always need to have staff on backup. You can't just say we're not going to serve food today. So that would be one, I guess, pitfall or challenge. And then the second thing would be around procurement, and there were some talks about this. Gary mentioned the literacy, and Gary and I had a great chat on this yesterday. I think that's part of the next answer to the next question, the 5 years time thing. I'll forget about the literacy.
I get spoiled.
Yeah, but procurement and like the local farms. So just to put it in perspective, so we hired I say we, so the School Association, we worked with a master's student in business and health. She had a dual master's from Carlson University, I believe, like 2 years ago. So she interviewed 177 farms in the province. And we found 7 farms that were willing to even entertain talking to us. And of the 7, not one of them could provide the amount of food we needed to put in schools, right? And then there's a whole transportation logistical thing with respect to trucks and timing and these types of things. So, you know, some of the
Can I just speak to Jack too as well?
Yeah.
Just for repetition area as well. That's a very big piece. I'm not trying to take away from what you're trying to say as well.
No problem.
Is a missing piece of the puzzle, the connection made from the farmers to get to the suppliers. And John Lowe, Chartwells, and even some of it, you know, I guess I keep saying mom and pop because that's what they want first of all. Most people are not going to their local grocery stores and getting food for school lunch associations or providers like Harbour or Chartwells and so on and so forth. They're going to places like Cisco and AGB. Biggest piece of the problem is getting the food from the farms to the suppliers, so it can get to the trucks, out to the schools. We work with Roots Country Farm in New Orleans, not certified organic, but they hold their head high and being organic. And that's the biggest problem, is getting the food to the schools. Not, how do you see it? Like if you picture, it's great in St. John's or in a metropolis area where we can say, oh, they can deliver. They come every day to your root vegetables and so on and so forth. But it's not real. It's great in theory. It's awesome to think about that. But it's not real to get it across the province and up and down every day. You need to have it to the providers, which is the AGVs, the Cisco's of the world, to get it to us. That's the missing link. Because we would buy it. I'm sure, you know what I mean? Everybody would buy it. It's anybody who doesn't recognize eating local or feeding local today in food service world, cooking world, culinary world, chef world is not on the same page. It's huge, and that's the biggest problem is getting it to the locations. Sorry, this one thing.
Did you have anything else on?
Yeah, no, I mean, like Gary's not wrong. So as much as procurement can be a challenge, like the economic benefits, like the positive effect can come from this. So I looked at Matthew at the school, Milk Foundation. Funny story, before I started 4.5 years ago in this role, the executive director stopped by my chocolate milk, right? And you're all like, what? And it cost enough. And so our volumes, we're gonna serve over 1,300,000 meals this year. So we went from buying 1 million cartons of milk to 500,000 cartons of milk. So the impact that had on dairy farmers was huge. So in the same line and vein of growth, as much as challenges in procurement and farms producing and the economic benefits of expanding this program are massive. When you talk about trucks and distribution and dairy farmers and local farms and maybe it's vertical farming or indoor growing or some of the work that Food First has been doing with some of their hubs. But yeah, pitfalls for me and then for us is staff, recruitment, retention, and that transportation network. We had 3 days, I think, Angie and Maurice this year, we couldn't get food to Gander. We couldn't get food to Gander because they were under like 50, 70 centimeters of snow. So we ordered pizza for the kids because they were expecting to be fed, but we couldn't physically get the trucks there. So that's some of the biggest pitfalls, recruitment, retention, and procurement, and transportation.
Thanks, Shaun. So we've got a couple minutes left for the panel questions, and then we want to open it up. So I'll just do maybe like 1 minute on the last question here, which is just like, let's jump forward and imagine we're reconvening this room 5 years from now. So what are you hopeful that things look like 5 years from now? Maybe Celina, you want to start?
Sure. I think our hope would be in 5 years that, looking back, that when every child and youth comes to school, whether it's breakfast, whether it's a mid-morning breakfast, whether it's lunch or snack, that every child and youth in Newfoundland and Labrador has access to food at no cost. What a dream that would be. Can you imagine? I also hope that if we look back, Josh, that we've done it in a systematic, phased-in approach that's well done with nonprofit and profit, that we're proud of it and it's a success, and that we become one of the best practices in the country, because I think we can lead the way. We have great people at the table. What a dream that would be. Can you imagine?
I think we're getting there.
I think we are too. I think we are too.
Matthew, no, you have to go this way. So Matthew, 5 years from now, what do you hope this all looks like?
Yeah, I mean, what I'd like to see is the lunch programs in the schools are as widespread and universal as the breakfast programs are right now. That we could get to a phase where, that's we're talking 100% for 2 meals of the day instead of 1, right? So that would be sort of the dream. And getting there, obviously, it's gonna be some challenges, but really leveraging that recently announced federal funding and having it allocated in the most sort of well thought out, efficient way that we can, and it's going to take a whole lot of coordination between a lot of the folks here in this room. So that's what I'd say on that one.
Thanks, Matthew. Gary, to you, what's your 5-year dream world look like?
5 years, basically everything from food literacy, having programs like the Little Green Thumbs in every school across the province to highlight the importance of growing sustainable environments, what it is that it is to have these type of systems in schools, connecting food to farmers, the literacy piece. Again, I can go on because it's being boots on the ground since 2005. It's one of the single biggest things that can slow down the growth of the program and people buying into it. We need people to buy into it and understand the importance of what it is that we're trying to do. One of the biggest things, I'll just make an example. We talk about milk. Right now, water is the drink of choice in the nutritional, across the country with the new program that was launched, I think it was 4 years ago, by great nutritionists in the facility. Water is the drink of choice. It took from 2007, I'm going to say up to 2014, for kids to be considerably going around with a bottle of water or refillable water containers. Just think about that for a second. Just think how long it took to get from slush puppies, no offense to slush puppy, but drank nothing as a kid, or Gatorade, Powerade. But you have to think about it this way. It's one way to think about how long it takes to get somewhere. Water is a drink of choice now. It's cool to have a bottle of water or go around to your refillable standing mug with water versus 15, 16 years ago. And it still happens. Just look over to the corner stores, just look over to the fast food places and get stuff. But just think about how long it's taken for that transition. This is like a generational change that we're trying to do. So it has to have a massive undertaking plan. So just to highlight that, that just blows my mind when I tell people that water is the drink of choice. I know, no offense to milk, nothing like this. But you have to understand what I'm saying. You have to understand what I'm saying. You have to understand what I'm saying.
That being next to each other.
You have to look at what kids have in their hands, right? It's a big change. You get kids now going to sports events and going places now. 9 chances then what's in their hand? Bottle of water. Am I right or wrong? It's a vast majority. Just think about it that way. So, we're on the right track. And just a lot more chats like this, panels, discussions, bringing people in across the country.
Thanks, Gary. And Shaun, over to you. 5 years, best case, we come back here. What are we talking about?
Yeah, I'm certainly living the dream where every student in the province is fed. But I would also add that society catches up to everybody in this room. right? We all have the vision, we all know that's the right thing to do, and we all are marching towards the goal, but I don't know that society is there. And so it's just having everybody else catch up to everybody in this room, and everybody looking at it through the lens of it's the right thing to do. Kids are healthier, when they're healthier, they learn better, and they're more successful. So there would be that piece, there would be also continued funding on the table to make sure it actually happens. And then I think, thinking 5 years down the road, that program 5 years down the road might look different than what it is today, just from a nutritional standpoint, or trends, or what's happening. So a program that's also kept up with the times.
Thanks, Shaun. And John, last word on this one to you. Like 5 years from now, what's the dream?
Immediately work together, Josh will be having our own farm.
But if you've ever seen me try to grow anything, you know that's terrible.
Yeah, no, ideally 5 years from now, absolutely. I mean, there's 200,000, how many children in Newfoundland and Labrador are going to school? 65,000, something like that. If every child was fed, that would be the ideal world. And that would be nice to see in 5 years' time. I just think we need to be slow and take our time to get there. And then the literacy piece as well, and Gary and I had a great chat on this yesterday. All that stuff is good, and it's really good to hear from folks like from Debbie and Carolyn from the coalition and what's going on with food literacy in other provinces. But for us, like the biggest challenge is just getting the food right now and taking that piece. But also we have the province with the highest rate of obesity and diabetes. Newfoundland and Labrador has that distinction. So hats off to folks like Heidi and our team at government and the school health promotion liaisons with these nutritional guidelines. As challenging as they are with respect to procuring higher nutritional food for the cost, it is something that starts that generational change. So I would like to continue to see some of that, and hopefully in 5 years from now we're having a chat, and if we didn't make $1 million farming, Josh, we'll be feeding all the children.
Very good, I'll take that. Thank you everybody for your thoughts. I think this has been really enlightening for folks in the room. We do have some time now, about 10 minutes on the clock for questions from the audience. So same rules, put up your hand, someone will come to you with a microphone. Anyone want to pick it up? There's someone over there, Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel Carlson from Memorial University. Thanks so much for your comments. That was really interesting. My question is about kind of your 5-year vision. So school food discussions are not new, right? We've been trying to work on this issue for decades, but it sounds like the vision might require, and this is an assumption, you can correct me if I'm wrong, like an innovative or dramatic solution to really move the needle on school food. So curious about your appetite for a dramatic solution, and what would your organizations need in order to be really innovative or dramatic?
Whoa.
Can I speak first?
Go for it.
The elephant in the room is funding. No question, funding. What's going to take a dramatic effect to move that needle is politicians, government, locals, farmers. We're not reinventing the wheel here, but is everybody on the same page? So in 5 years, if everybody buys into it, I'm positive and I'm confident, and I'm saying, I'm usually the type of person that does find negative sometimes, because there's always negative, every day. But to move the needle, we need to heavily invest in getting more food literacy into the school, so kids are aware and buy into the program that we're trying to invest in. I'm telling you, that's the biggest missing piece of the puzzle. I don't know if anybody here feels that way, but being in schools and recognizing that kids do not understand where food comes from, what it is to eat healthy. Forget healthy, what it is to just eat wholesome homemade food. Okay? And that's key. That's the biggest piece. This is where you mentioned the change. Wholesome homemade food is the key. Just don't forget that saying, wholesome homemade food. Kids will buy into that more than telling them that you're just going to feed them cucumbers. Right now. Not everybody's eating cucumbers with ranch. Let's be honest. We cannot lose focus. So the literacy piece is a big piece of the puzzle, and the funding.
Thanks, Gary. Anyone else want to weigh in on that? Like, what would your organizations need to really push the boundaries a bit here?
I'll answer that, but I won't say our organization, but if you want to be really dramatic, which is not dramatic to us, but if you decide that you want to do the lunch program, and let's just take an example like Labrador, well, you know what, put the team together with government and people who are going to do it, profit or non-profit, go into a school number one, and say, we're going to do a lunch program. How do you think that could look? Talk to the administration, talk to the students, talk to the parents in the community. Okay, we're going to do a lunch program. And it happens. We have 4,000 volunteers who've served 6.3 million meals this year. So I think that if you have that plan, let's go to school number one, school number two, school number three. But that could be, again, a big coordination between profit, non-profit, people in the community, distributors, wholesalers, corner stores, and make it happen, because it is about feeding the children and youth. So you're talking about dramatic, you know what, let's just do it. Go into those schools and make it happen.
Thanks, Celina. Anyone else want to think about what this looks like?
Yeah, sure. That was the question, like what would be the dramatic change? And I guess Gary's not wrong when it comes to money, but that's the biggest cautionary tale that I think that really needs to be spoken about. So when the provincial government announced in November that they were going to do this social well-being plan and some of the comments from people about, well, my tax dollars are paying to feed kids, good God, like people with negative connotations. And now with the National School Food Program, we've seen the announcement for that, some also negative connotations. So the challenge for a dramatic change is going to be a shift in the way in which people think and envision where your tax dollars go and how important it is to feed children. Just because you might be fortunate enough to live in a situation where you can afford to pack a lunch every day for your child and the family next door can't, that's a mindset shift that I think really needs to dramatically change. So therefore folks can get the understanding behind the fact there needs to be subsidies for these types of programs. Because at some point, if that shift doesn't occur, it's not going to be financially sustainable to fund school food programs. That's my personal opinion. I don't see it. I spoke with folks in Nova Scotia last week. They announced $18.8 million for their provincial budget, and they're forecasting that they're probably going to need $100 million a year in the next couple of years. I mean, if you think from Newfoundland and Labrador as a province running a $9 billion budget, we got $5 billion going to healthcare. The next biggest budget line item is going to pay off the deficit. And then the next biggest budget line item is paying for post-secondary education. We have buildings in schools for infrastructure that are built 50, 60 years ago that are inaccessible and don't have stairs or coolers or what. Like, there's so many things. So if funding is going to come, there needs to be a dramatic change in the shift in the way in which people envision where their tax dollars are going if government, provincially and federally, are going to fund these programs.
Shaun or Matthew, what would you need to really make a dramatic shift in how you work with space?
Yeah, I think the dramatic shift comes with finding solutions for some of those more remote or difficult to get to locations. And to your point, let's just make it happen. But let's brainstorm and solutionize for those more difficult locations. Because there are solutions. It's just a solution can't be applied uniformly across all of those units expecting it to be successful, because they all have their own unique set of circumstances that we have to solve for. So we're happy to do that. We want to do that with the right people, and we will do it. It just might not happen at the same time as serving a school in a metro.
That's a good thought, yeah. We get a surprising amount of calls about drones. Fleets of drones flying up north, to drop food onto people. So maybe that's it, right? Robot lunch deliveries in the future. Matthew, how about you? What would it take for you folks to really shift dramatically your work in this space?
Yeah, I'll probably just sort of, build on a couple of things that have been said there. Not so much the robot revolution, but, maybe, some of the things with regard to, just really thinking about how we can address some of those rural, Labrador in particular, challenges of getting food in places. I think outside, maybe it is something like drones. I don't know. Maybe it does need to be something totally, dramatic like that. But also, just another thing that Gary said was about, the education piece. And, we got programs out there like the Little Green Thumbs, where the kids are growing in their own classrooms. And some of these kids, from what I understand, are eating things that they wouldn't otherwise eat because they grew it, right? So they might not want to have a salad normally, but we grew this, all the ingredients for this, so I'm going to eat this, right? So if we're putting nutritious meals out there, the kids are gonna have to wanna eat them as well, right? So making more of those connections on sort of the nutrition education side of it. Maybe working at scaling up further some of those programs. They've already got a really good reach, and maybe building on that with, some things in some of the older grades, things like that. But sort of, making those connections of what's already out there to, sort of find ways to make the most of everything that we've already got out there, right? There's great programs like that, and then sort of connecting those dots is just what needs to happen.
Great.
I have to share this story. So every year we do what's called Rooting for Health, and we work with milk, eggs, agriculture, little green thumbs, and we go into the schools and we do this big farmers market, and we have children come in and try and understand where their food comes from, and we have beehives and all of this, and we're in each school in every region in Newfoundland and Labrador. And in a Centre City school in St. John's, we had one of our milk farmers, Hector, come in, and he brought a mechanical cow with him. And the children were lined up to, milk the cow. And one of the little children, she was like 6 or 7, she was like, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, that's where your milk comes from." And she's like, "Oh, you're joking with me, Farmer Hector." He said, "I'm not, that's where your milk comes from." And she said, "No, it doesn't. It comes from Costco." And, it was that aha moment of, oh my gosh, right? So literacy, I think, has been something, we're talking about schools and children and food, but very key point, and I think the people that are representing, government that are here to hear the messaging, they're hearing it. But sorry, I just had to share that.
That's all good. And Leah's holding up very fluorescent timing signs for us. This is very cool. We probably have one quick question left in us here. If anyone has something burning in the brain, I'll go over here.
Thank you. Just back to the pitfall question, I just wondered, have we considered that pitfall maybe transition, the transition that we need to make, the work we have to do to transition from lunch bags to nutritious lunches? Like, what do you think the recommendations are going to be for increasing interest and uptake? Like, we're a long way from Dunkaroos to salad bars and, and cucumbers and ranch dip. Like, I don't know if some of the challenge of all this hard work that needs to happen to get food in schools, I'd hate to see the pitfall of it not flying in some schools because these kids are I'm not eating that. What are some of the recommendations, or what could some of the recommendations be to increase the interest in, like you talked about, wholesome homemade food from the lunch bag with the Dunkaroos and snacks.
Anyone want to tackle that? Sure.
Lots of colleagues here that points out Angie, Maureen, different programs, school lunch, Little Green Thumbs program. Anybody not familiar with the Little Green Thumbs program? I'm not trying to highlight it, but I just want to speak to something. The literacy piece, and we talk about wholesome food, nutritional benefits of wholesome food. Then we also have the factor of the nutritional piece. What have we done and the changes that we have made? And have they been successful in reaching the children? Why haven't they reached the children? Why? That question rings loud because kids have no awareness. Programs like that bring awareness. And that's only a program that has no real, and I'm not saying like that, just imagine if it's in 265 schools. The awareness, so they're able to put 2 and 2 together, grade 2, grade 3 students. My son was in grade 3 when we sponsored the Little Green Thumbs program in Holy Redeemer. The effects of the Little Green Thumbs program during grade 8 now, we're still talking about it. So just think about it, like food literacy, the common goal is just to get food to the table. We want to get the universal lunch program, but to make sure that it happens in every school and it doesn't fail is the awareness, whether it's awareness to the adults, whether it's awareness to the kids, whether it's awareness to the politicians. The kids will buy into it if it's spoken about in a positive manner. They will buy into it. We talk about Baldaia. I'm telling you, they will. It might not be a salad bar. It could be, a wrap or a homemade mac and cheese that's on menu, right? But they will buy into it. They're smarter than we are. They're my biggest critics in the last 20 years. I've catered weddings, functions, catered premiers, and politicians alike. My biggest critics are school kids. They tell them that's the case.
As a parent of a 5-year-old, we're going to call it there. We want to stick to time. And I just want to thank all our panelists. I'm sure folks are going to want to grab them for a side chat throughout the rest of the day. But that was a really, I think, informative look at how this is playing out on the ground here in the province. So thanks again, everybody. Much appreciated.